Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. I'm reminded by the song, "We Didn't Start the Fire." It seems right now, Michael Cohen, since the election in particular, the world is a powder keg. I mean, we're seeing a right-wing leader in South Korea and President Yoon try to declare martial law. We see pro-democracy protests in Georgia. We can see what's going on in Syria as rebels there took over Aleppo, which is the first time they made serious advancements since 2016. You've got Vladimir Putin struggling with some of his own issues there, but making it very clear on state media or through state media how happy he is about Donald Trump's picks. You've got the president of Mexico pushing back against Donald Trump. You've got tumult in Canada. You've got the parliament disbanding in France right now. And, you know, all of these dominoes, Michael Cohen, are no coincidence. America is integral to a stable world order. And one of the messages that Putin wanted to get out through an oligarch on state-run TV is that any negotiations or discussions about Ukraine must be done within the broader context of a new world order with Russia as its leader. We talked about that on the last episode of Political Beatdown. They leak that through the Financial Times. And so, you know, I understand that, for lots of people who tuned out, I actually don't fully understand how they did, but people who tuned out, maybe this was all hypothetical, this was all games, this was all rhetoric. But you see the reality abroad. And then also, Cohen, we've been doing a lot of videos that I don't really enjoy doing, the F Around and Find Out series of union leaders who believe that deals that Trump told them were going to happen. They're now pissed that Trump's coming out and saying that these deals shouldn't happen. You've got Black Republicans upset that there's only one Black individual who's on the cabinet. You've got communities like in Georgia, for example, that have huge amounts of migrant populations in the carpentry industry. And they're saying we're not going to be able to sustain ourselves in places like Marjorie Taylor Greene's district that overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. Same thing, mass deportations potentially starting in Miami. So And that was an area that turned Trump. So, Cohen, a lot going on right now, a lot of chaos going on. And I think it's important, while the media is still obsessed with, I don't know, buying into Republican frameworks about Hunter Biden or whatever stupid things they're talking about, we need to orient our lens, our microphone, I think, on what's really happening here.
Yeah. So, look, one of the things that you and I have both said for, I don't know, a year now since we started this beatdown brigade. If you have a strong America, you have a strong world. If you have a weak America, you will have a weak world. And we're seeing that right now. I can't tell you the number of people that are, walking around right now, all absolutely just like zombies, not sure what's going to happen. Is this related? Is it not related? And then, Ben, as you said, they're not talking about things that are going to affect you and us. They're talking about things that still are on the gripe list of the now president-elect's campaign. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, we're talking about the pardon. I mean, we're talking about everything that really has no effect on us. In one of the podcasts that I have coming up, one of the things that I do is I draw an analogy, which is what happened here. How did so many people end up deciding that Donald Trump is the better candidate? His messaging was better. I'll grant you that. It was shorter. It talked about gasoline and groceries. But here's what they missed. They were looking at the trees while ignoring the forest. Plain and simple. They got blindsided. They got attracted to the shiny object right in front of them. It's like, like what you do to a baby, right? When the baby needs to be distracted, you put something in front of their face, you wiggle it, a set of keys, and so on. That's what happened here. And now all of a sudden you see all this regret coming out. And I say, fuck you. I say to them, fuck you. You don't have a right now to regret when you turn around and you exactly fell for the con. When you're talking about steelworkers now pissed because they were there backing, the candidate Trump. And so they did. Gut punch. Trump upsets local union leaders by opposing U.S. Steel Nippon deal. How about all of the Muslim Americans, whether it's in Pennsylvania all the way to Michigan? How about all the Muslim Americans that are angry at this administration over how things are going in the Gaza? And so they elected to vote for Trump or not to vote at all. We call that protest votes, right? Well, guess what? Look at what you have now with a Mike Huckabee, with Mike Johnson, with the entire group turning around, and Jared Kushner talking about leveling Gaza and turning it into expensive vacation homes. Seriously? You got what you wanted. Now it's our responsibility, ours, to stay informed, stay active, stay in the know here on the Midas Touch Network, on my Michael Cohen YouTube channel, on my Mea Culpa podcast. Stay in the know, because if, and I use that term, if things go bad, you're going to need to know what we can all do together as the collective community that Ben talks about all the time with such loving grace, right? We are a community here, and our job is going to be to make sure that our voices are heard, and that if that means we all have to show up and start protesting, that's what we're going to need to do.
So, Michael Cohen, here was the headline, gut punch. Trump upsets local union leaders by opposing the U.S. Steel Nippon deal, the Japanese company that's made this $14 billion offer to buy U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel says that it's going to have to lay off people if it doesn't accept this offer. The article goes on to talk about a guy named Jason Zagai. Jason Zagai was there at all these Trump rallies in Pittsburgh, rallying all the union workers to vote for Donald Trump. Well, this is a controversial deal nationwide. It's not controversial within their local 2227. They support this deal 95%. And Donald Trump led him on to believe that he was going to support this deal. Then Donald Trump posted, "I'm strongly against this. I do not want to do this deal. Buyer beware." And that's going to basically cost Zagai and probably the people he represents their jobs. And then we see, this guy, Sean O'Brien, who I've been focusing on a lot. He's the head of the Teamsters. There's not an invite to Mar-a-Lago that he refuses to accept. He's always there. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Donald Trump. He refused to endorse President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris, despite Biden and Harris being the most pro-union, pro-worker, bottom-up, middle-out in the history. And here's where you need leaders, because I get it. Look, sometimes rank-and-file people, are very busy. They're getting all this disinformation streamed at them. They're working lots of hours to support their family. But leaders need to step up and lead. But instead, you've got Sean O'Brien giving the old thumbs up with Donald Trump over and over again. And everybody knew that Elon Musk would basically be serving as a co-president for Donald Trump. Maybe the visuals of Elon Musk next to Trump are a bit jarring, but like the rhetoric here I'm about to play you by Elon Musk is the same thing that Trump says. They've repeatedly said.
Why do you say that? Because one of our brigaders here, Brenda, it's almost like she was reading my mind. It's right. I don't get it. You voted for him. Now you want to complain about it? Seriously, that's not how it works. Now, what we have to do, Ben, what we need to do with our brigaders is make sure, again, everybody stays in the know. And don't think that you do by watching the news elsewhere. because there's so much misinformation and bullshit that's going on. There's so much lying that's going on. We may need to be incredibly vocal when it comes to the midterm elections, because the way our founding fathers established this system, we actually have a lot more power than people think. And we're going to possibly, we might have to really make sure that we use it so that we don't end up losing our democracy. We don't end up losing our rights. And trust me, if there's anybody that knows about losing their constitutional rights, it's me.
You know, if someone were to say throughout their lives, I hate Midas touch, I hate Ben, I hate the Midas mighty, and repeat it over and over again, and then they ran on a campaign, and then they said, I hate you, but I'm going to do great things for you, okay? I hate you, but I'm going to do great things for you. That's basically the equivalent of what Trump did, with all these different groups that he somehow convinced to vote for. I mean, Trump's come out before and said how much he hates unions. He laughs at the idea of union workers getting fired for striking. His views and Elon Musk's on unions are aligned, where they don't think that unions should exist. So let me share with you, this is a video that was well known about Elon Musk, and Elon Musk always says these types of things. Trump says stuff like this. Here's Musk's view about unions. He says that he doesn't believe even in the concept of unions, and here's why. Let's play this clip.
I disagree with the idea of unions, but perhaps for a reason that is different than people may expect, which is I just don't like anything which creates kind of a lords and peasants sort of thing. And I think the unions naturally try to create negativity in a company and create a sort of lords and peasants situation.
Tesla factory workers in California are working so hard they're passing out on the production line.
How do people buy that? Like, if you're in a union and Elon Musk, who's worth $300 billion, an actual lord versus peasant dynamic before you, and that the unions are just simply negotiating so that you can get fair pay, so you can have a living wage, so you can literally live. And then you're going to go with Elon Musk, who says that unions create a lords and peasants dynamic. And we're seeing now all of these emboldened billionaires, right? All out of the shadows now saying, we're the oligarchs. Here we are, everybody. Look how rich we are. And they're flaunting it now too, Cohen. Did you notice that? Whether it's, a Jeff Bezos or others of that ilk, they are doing the oligarch dance that we saw in Russia. And then they're like, oh, well, I'm very, very confident. This is what Bezos said. I'm very, very confident that I'm looking forward to a Trump term, because I just think there's so much regulation right now that's really anti-business. Dude, you're worth $300 billion and you amassed massive wealth while Biden was in office as well. Which regulations existed?
Yeah, but let's be clear, though. Let's be clear about something. I'm going to grant you 100% of what you said. He, meaning Elon Musk, made more money during the Biden administration than ever before in his entire life. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that the recent increase in his net worth by another $80+ billion, while that took place on Biden's watch, it is the direct result of Trump winning the election. He made over $80+ billion since Trump won in November. I want you to imagine the kind of numbers that we're talking about. This is not a joke. It's not a joke when they're now in charge of, imagine this DOGE program, Department of Government Efficiency. Seriously, when they talk about cutting $2 trillion from our budget, remembering that our budget is somewhere about $7 billion, they want to cut $2 billion, or a third of the budget. First of all, if you 70, what is it? I think it's like 75% of our budget is fixed in stone. You cannot change it. It's only 25%, which amounts, believe it or not, to 1.5 billion. Even if they cut all of that, you know what that's cutting? That's cutting like $119 billion from veterans health, veterans affairs. You're talking about Medicare, Medicaid. You're talking about NIH. You're talking about the FBI. You're talking about Bureau of Prisons. Give me a fucking break. Are you kidding me? You're going to cut the entire budget, for example, of the FBI? Really? Who even talks like this? Instead, they're talking about tax breaks. They're talking about getting rid of regulation. What are we doing? What is going on here? And the worst, I'm not even going to put Trump in this category. It's the people that are surrounding him. Each one of them has a vested interest in taking on the role that is being offered to them. And look, I want to give you guys an inside perspective of exactly what happened in 2016 when Trump won. There was no transition book, which is historically what every single president does. You take all of the slots that need to be filled, starting with the cabinet all the way down. It's like 1,000+ positions that need to be filled. And that includes everybody from ambassadors to consulates and so on. And there's a real team that works on this for months and months. And they speak to people on a daily basis, and then they vet them. Well, that's not what happened with us in 2016. All of a sudden, I had Jared Kushner shows up to my office. They give me a stack of papers about an inch thick that has all of the open slots with a bunch of lines underneath each one. Fill in the names of anybody that you think would be good for that spot. Really? So who am I going to say? Oh, yeah, Attorney General? How about Ben Meiselas? He's a lawyer. He represented Colin Kaepernick. He's a smart guy. He teaches at USC. Sounds good to me. Let's make him fucking Attorney General. And then they turn around and they ask him, hey, Ben, how many trials? Have you ever been a prosecutor? Right? And he says, no. Well, maybe you don't think you should. Oh, you know what? Ben's good with a checkbook. Let's make him Secretary of the Treasury. Come on. This is what's happening here. And every single person, it's either one of the billionaire class that surrounds him, like a Linda McMahon, right, who gave Trump many millions of dollars with her husband, Vince McMahon, of the WWE McMahons. Let's give her education. Let's give this one, that one. Let's take the entire team over at Fox News and let's bring them into the White House, because these are people that we worked with.
You mentioned my representation of Colin Kaepernick. One of the things in that experience that fascinated me back then in 2016, 2017, was to watch how lots of people identified, and this is a parallel to now, with ownership, with the billionaire owners over the labor, because people imagined themselves with that kind of wealth. And they would see the billionaire owners and they would think that's attainable for me. And the billionaire owners would make them think that is. And so the flashy lifestyle and the Lamborghinis and the mansions and the yachts, people thought I could be the owner and basically be the lord over the peasant, when the real lords are treating you like the peasant and are stopping you from advancing. What Donald Trump was able to do was to convince basically people who he's keeping in peasant-like conditions that he's one of them. But ultimately, he is the biggest voice of the lords, the oligarch class in the United States of America that is directly screwing these people. And who is he appointing to his cabinet? Who is he appointing to senior administration officials? Billionaires, about 9 of them already, 9 billionaires, people who don't even have experience in the areas, like a billionaire who's now running the United States Navy, who runs a hedge fund, who was never in the Navy. You have a deputy.
Yeah, by the way, he's a friend of mine for 20 years.
Not in the Navy. Doesn't change that. Deputy.
No.
Deputy. I'm a friend of yours. Would you want me to be the head of the Navy?
No, but he did marry a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
He married a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. But going to the point that I
by the way, he's a very smart guy, but you're not wrong. I mean, listen, as a kid, he sat in the bathtub with a little rubber ducky and a boat, and now all of a sudden he's Secretary of the Navy. Look, I used to watch Star Trek as a child. You're going to put me in charge of Space Force? I mean, at some point in time, we could have so much fun, poking at this thing. The problem, this isn't supposed to be funny. This is our country. This is our protection. This is our national security. It's like, yeah, I used to have multiple firearms. I was licensed to carry. Now you're going to put me in charge of the FBI? Come on. My dad's a surgeon. My dad's a head and neck reconstructive surgeon. You're going to make me the head of HSS?
Look, people are angry. And I think that one of the fundamental misunderstandings by the Harris campaign was that people actually, a lot of them, didn't want to go forward. They weren't looking for the hope. They were looking to vent their anger at somebody, right? And Donald Trump was saying, look, they're eating your cats and dogs. It's the migrants. It's this group. It's trans people. Here's who did this to you. But it was always Trump. It's the Kaiser Sose moment, right? Of the usual suspects. It's Trump. He's the one doing it to you. And it's Trump policies that put you in this position. That's what needs to be articulated.
No, Ben. No, I'm sorry. We put ourselves in this position because
I want to debate that with you.
They felt the shiny object in front of their nose. All right.
I want to debate that with you. We got to take our first quick break of the show. I want to remind everyone about Michael Cohen's YouTube channel, at The Michael Cohen Show. Go to at The Michael Cohen Show now. Also, make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa Blue podcast. And join us at patreon.com/political beatdown. We held a lovely live. It was fun seeing everyone at that live. We have a recording of it in case you missed it. That Zoom meeting, but join us in the next Zoom meeting next week. We would love to see you there. Cohen, we're going to debate that. We got to take our first quick break of the show.
When I was in my early 20s, I developed an ear infection that caused me to lose, believe it or not, more than 80% of my hearing. And since then, it's actually gotten worse. But the truth is, I never bought a hearing aid out of vanity, despite my dad, who's an otolaryngologist and a diplomat in head and neck reconstructive surgery. He's an ENT surgeon. He sent me to his audiologist telling me to do so. And then I got my MD hearing aid and I couldn't be happier. My wife and my children couldn't be happier. You know why? Because they don't have to keep repeating themselves. And my friends, they don't worry where they sit anymore at the table because I can hear now from both sides. Which is why I'm excited to say that this podcast is sponsored by MD Hearing. MD Hearing is an FDA-registered, rechargeable hearing aid that costs a fraction of what typical hearing aids cost. MD Hearing's Neo model, that's the one that I have in my ear right now. It costs over 90% less than clinic hearing aids. The Neo fits right inside your ear, so no one will even know that it's there. Plus, MD Hearing just launched the Neo XS, MD Hearing's smallest hearing aid ever. MD Hearing recently cut their price in half. I mean, that means that you're going to get their high-quality, rechargeable digital hearing aid for only $297 a pair. In fact, I called Ben immediately after to tell him how great that they are. I mean, I can actually hear. I even called my dad, who wears the hearing aid himself, and I bragged to him about my new MD hearing aid. I mean, I told him it's just as good as premium quality hearing aids. And $297 a pair for a hearing aid? It's just crazy. MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon, just like my dad, who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids, but they couldn't afford them. Or, like me, vanity. He made it his mission to develop a quality hearing aid that anyone could afford. MD Hearing has sold over 1.9 million hearing aids, and they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee. So you can buy with confidence. And if you're still on the fence about MD Hearing, they were just selected to be the hearing aid supplier for top Medicare Advantage plans. So they are a brand that you can trust. And look, here, I'll prove it to you. There's my hearing aid. You see how small this thing is? Yeah, and it goes right in too. So this holiday season, get the hearing aid you deserve with MD Hearing. Go to shopmdhearing.com and use promo code BEAT, to get a pair of hearing aids for just, again, $297. Plus, they're adding a free extra charging case. That's $100 value just for listeners of Political Beatdown. So go right now, that's shopmdhearing.com, and use our promo code BEAT, BEAT, and get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. Again, shop mdhearing.com and use promo code BEAT, BEAT. Go there now.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Cohen, I can't tell you how many people, including you telling me privately that MD Hearing has helped them hear. There's some people who don't like wearing the hearing aids that that you can see. And so it's so small. And people have said, like, I've never heard these sounds before. Thank you for recommending that. So that's a pretty cool one.
I have it in.
You have it in right?
Of course I do. Yeah.
So let me show. We were having a debate.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Love it. You and I were having a debate before the ad break where, I was framing the issue more in terms of this billionaire class and Trump as their vessel doing this to us. And your response was more like, no, we did this to ourselves. So I want to flesh out that discussion. But let me just show you these two things first. First, I want to show you Jeff Bezos at the recent New York Times summit. I'll just show you a short clip of this. Let's play it.
If we're talking about Trump, I think it's very interesting. I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him.
What about the idea that he thinks that the press is the enemy?
Well, I think I'm going to try to talk him out of that idea. I don't think the press is the enemy. And I don't think, he's also, you've probably grown in the last 8 years. He has too. Like, this is not the case. The press is not the enemy.
I hope you're right.
He goes, I hope you're right. And he's not right, because we've heard what Donald Trump said. There's nothing to indicate that Donald Trump's changed at all. And Bezos right there is basically admitting, in my opinion, that look, we're okay with some fact. I'll try to talk Trump out of the fascism, okay? But less regulation. And meanwhile, Bezos is worth, by my last check, $228.4 billion. $228.4 billion. Like, who actually needs that amount of money? Let me show you this with Bill Gates, though, as well, because here's a short moment of it. I'll just show you a very short clip of it. Here, let's play.
If you got 99% of your money, you'd still be a multi-billionaire.
No. And
you have $138 billion, and I can do math.
Right. If you get rid of 99%, I'd have 1.3 billion.
I'm so sorry.
And you see the people laughing there.
Right. What's funny about that?
Exactly. What is funny about that? And you have, going back to what Elon Musk said about unions, right? This is why I say this is the billionaires who are pushing this agenda with all of their money, saying, you know what? It's the unions that are causing it's a Lord peasant dynamic, and he says it, and I'm the rocket man, and so I'm supposed to be, and he's a smart guy. I mean, he still created these or helped build these companies. But then people are like, oh yeah, maybe unions are creating a Lord peasant dynamic, and that's why I'm not getting a living wage while these billionaires are out there like saying, ha 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 ha. And then they've amassed like the most money ever. And this was, in my view, though, Cohen, here's the thing. This was a concerted agenda by billionaires who had lots of money in the 70s and 80s, but they wanted it all. And they spent all this time crushing people, and people are pissed now. And so they're just blaming incumbents or whoever you tell them to get angry at. But this was a plan, Cohen. I don't blame the people. The people were forced into this, I think, by billionaires. But you disagree.
Yeah, I don't think the billionaires forced anybody. When you saw Elon Musk jumping up and down, acting like a 4-year-old on the stage, or you saw, and heard some of the comments that were being made by people like RFK, stop. We all have a response. 20 million Democrats didn't even vote during this election cycle. Possibly, as we have said a million times on this show and others, the most consequential election of our lifetimes. And it was too fucking hard for them to get up and go to the voting station and cast their vote? Really? How did something like that happen? 20 million Democrats didn't vote, and then all of a sudden you had unions. It was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that walked the picket line. That's number one. It was Kamala Harris and Joe Biden that are trying to create some sort of a two-state solution instead of listening to now what's going to be Mike Huckabee, who doesn't even believe to use the term Palestine. He goes back to the old biblical name, and they don't even believe that a two-state solution should even be a thought, right? I'm not saying that it should be. I don't know the situation well enough to opine, but not to even have a thought that they want to level the whole place and that Trump's going to come in on day number one and said, if you don't return the hostages right now, we're going to level the whole place. Stop. This isn't how things are supposed to work.
Well, let me push back a little bit on some of the premise. So, number one, we the people elected representatives who passed on a bipartisan basis 20 years ago or so campaign finance reform, right? There was campaign finance. That was then challenged by Republicans, the precursors to the kind of MAGA movement. It went before the Supreme Court. A case called Citizens United was heard. And then they ruled, the Supreme Court, right-wing Supreme Court ruled that unlimited amounts of money by billionaires can be spent through political action committees. And unlimited monies can go into the elections. The people voted for people who passed legislation, and a right-wing Supreme Court said that corporations are people and have a First Amendment right to interfere in elections. So to me, to blame the people for what the Supreme Court justices as part of a right-wing agenda did to kind of topple the American experiment, I think there's something there. Also, 60% of Americans have below a 6th grade education. So 5th grade or less, because one of the things that Republicans have done and will continue to do, and we see this with the DOJ committee, what are they going to attack? The Department of Education. What do they want to do? Replace history books with Bibles in the classroom. And while I believe people who have strong religious convictions who want to read a Bible can do so in their private time and their free time at their places of worship, they want to replace history books with Bibles, and they're doing that in places like Oklahoma right now. No longer separation of church and state, which is kind of the types of things that you and I learned. And Cohen, even when I'm a little bit younger than you, but even when I went and grew up and took history courses, I learned about civics. I learned about how a bill becomes a law. I still watched the Schoolhouse Rocks type of stuff. I'm telling you, this generation right now and the younger crew that's always perpetually on social media, this generation right now that voted for Donald Trump, they're on their TikToks. That's what all they're looking at. They're not getting any type of civics education at all about things that are happening. And so they're just going by what their favorite podcaster is telling them or what this person or that person is telling them. So I hear you that obviously in a democracy, it is we, the people, who have the ultimate responsibility. But I do want to be clear that just the same way that nicotine and drugs can have a powerful influence over people, billionaires using money to prop up
right.
That's my
Except here's the thing. Let me say this. Do you recall how many times, Ben, I said people don't listen to what you're hearing. Trust your eyes and trust your ears. If what you're hearing is batshit crazy. And you don't need an education to know that something is batshit crazy, that people in Springfield, Ohio are eating cats and dogs. Stop. Stop. It's just stupid. All right. And, you see people on television turning around and saying, my pet's not gone. My pet found its way to the basement. And then we ultimately found the cat a day later. Right. You see it with your eyes. You hear it with your ears. Trust your eyes, trust your ears. And don't let them tell you that your eyes are lying or that your ears are lying. That's the whole problem here. All right. This isn't I don't care how many times you tell a bullshit story. A bullshit story should always be considered a bullshit story. And thank God for groups like Midas Touch Network and others like the Lincoln Project. We are out there 24/7 trying to yell. I tried to yell from the rooftops, any place that I could do it, to turn around and to say, stop. Stop. I'm not saying that all of Trump's policies are bad. No, some of them I actually agree with. But what I don't like is the manner to which that they're being rolled out, or by the individuals that this transition team that's working for Trump. By the way, I think they're screwing Trump up something royally. This transition team did no research at all on any of these people, from the Pete Hegseths to Matt Gaetz. They had to clearly know it wasn't going to work for them. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The people that are being asked for us to trust to run these massive departments, forget about the fact that they have no experience in it. They have their own personal problems, and that they shouldn't have been offered the nomination in the first place. It goes back to what I was saying before. They're all scrambling right now to fill positions. And I know it because I saw it.
Cohen, the word of the year from Oxford Dictionary? It's brain rot.
Yep.
And, to your point, in theory, when people hear stupid things, they would react a certain way. But we're living in these different kind of meme wars. I mean, what do you hear on TikTok? All this stupid stuff about Barron saying, my suitcase.
I was there. By the way, I was there for that videotaping.
And that would repeat over and over and over again. But I think that was released to kind of try to normalize the family. But all I heard people going around me, was like, oh, my suitcase, this. And I'm just like, all right, and stop with the suitcase thing. But then talking about brain rot, I mean, just think about over the past 24 hours. I mean, there's literally a person right now, I think her name is Haley Welch, who's called the Haktua girl, because she was asked when she was leaving a club, what makes men happy? And she goes, I haktua on them, which is a reference to a sexual thing. That went viral. People made all these songs about haktua. She got a podcast. She got all this money, and she leveraged it to sell this meme coin. The way Trump sells crypto. She sold this meme coin. And here's the Barstool. We're going to write this.
I think it was called the Tua coin.
It was called the Haktua coin. And it goes, Barstool writes, the Haktua girl launched a meme coin. Everybody lost their money. People want her thrown in jail. And then this other person goes, yep, that's the 2024 U.S. economy in a nutshell. So, yes, when Donald Trump's out there saying eating dogs and eating cats, and remember, this is an era where people spent millions of dollars to buy the Haktua coin. And it's ridiculous. But what we have to recognize is brain rot is a real thing. I think you have to channel people's anger, though, in the right directions and say, no, it's there. This is who's doing it to you. You have to.
Let me jump in for a quick second here. What made this young lady so virally famous is because it was salacious. It was something that was a literal 10-second clip. It was somebody asking her, something, sexual. And then she gave this thing, you got to haktua and spit on that thing, right? And that went fucking viral nuts. You know what didn't go viral nuts, Ben? Me standing on top of the rooftops, going on every station from ABC to NBC to CBS to CNN to MSNBC, going there and saying, we have a real serious problem. I am, me, Michael Cohen, am the first political prisoner held by this country because I refuse to waive my First Amendment constitutional rights. And I've been trying to explain that if they could do that to me, they can, and they will do that again going forward. Lo and behold, this morning, my buddy Jeffrey Levine, friend of mine since high school, he's a lawyer. I asked him if he would do me a favor. The day I was required to go down to 500 Pearl Street to meet with Department of Probation, these two people, Adam Pakula and his superior, Enid Phoebus. I was asked to go there in order to sign the federal location monitoring agreement. You probably all remember that, when I was unconstitutionally remanded. Well, we have been fighting now for 4 years in order to get the documents under FOIA. Well, lo and behold, after the court required them to do it, they start shitting it out in bits and pieces. Well, last night we got a couple of hundred documents.
And
Imagine
Cohen,
that.
before going into it, we have to take. I want you to tell people what's in those documents.
This is crazy. Stay with us.
We got to take our last quick break of the show. Make sure you all subscribe to @The Michael Cohen Show, YouTube, and patreon.com/Political Beatdown. We'll be right back.
You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat and you have to share with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is? I mean, that's kind of what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. I mean, it's such an awesome deal that there's no way you can keep it to yourself. Me, I love my Mint Mobile. $15 a month. Literally, it's insane. I mean, friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch right now to Mint Mobile. I mean, Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans, again, starting at just $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And you use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with you and all your existing contacts. So ditch right now the overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal, and you get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. To get this new customer offer of your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go right now to mintmobile.com/beat. That's mintmobile.com/beat. Cut the wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/beat. $45 upfront payment required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabyte on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Golden Nugget Online Casino invites you to turn the cold gold. So transform your winter moments into winning ones with all your casino favorites like the thrilling slot Icy Wilds, Blackjack, and exclusive games that you can't find anywhere else. Plus, enjoy special seasonal rewards all winter long. So whether you're spinning reels or doubling down, make this a season to celebrate. Now, new players sign up with code BEATDOWN and spin for a shot at up to $1,000 in casino credits with a minimum deposit of $5 or more only on Golden Nugget Online Casino. So make any moment golden. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER and please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. It's one per new customer. Deposit $5 and spin wheel to receive $10 to $1,000 in non-withdrawable casino credits for select games that expire in 168 hours. Terms at goldennuggetcasino.com/welcome.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Michael Cohen, during that break, right before the break, you told us that you actually got these FOIA documents. I want to hear what was in them. And I do want to remind people, though, one of the frustrations that I had when I was a civil rights lawyer, when I would be representing people like you, is you would make Freedom of Information Act requests. Because in order for you as the lawyer to file documents for your pleadings, guess what you need? You kind of need the documents. You need the facts. You need the evidence. And in business dispute cases, sometimes you have them, right? Because the emails go back and forth. Maybe there's a contract, and you may have the corpus, not all of them that you get during discovery, but you get them during discovery also. In civil rights cases, when you file the complaint, the other side brings a motion to dismiss, right? And that stops discovery in most, so you don't get to get these documents. And then when you file the complaint, usually before you file it, the police department, or in this case, the Department of Justice and the FBI and the Bureau of Prisons, they don't turn over the records. So you go, turn them over. They go, no. Turn them over. I really need them. No, I'm not going to get exemption. You can go to court. Hey, we're citing the ongoing investigation exemption.
Yep.
No, you can't. So
you get one that turns around and says methods and process could be harmed.
So you went all the way up to the Supreme Court on the lawsuit that you filed. They rejected your petition, but you didn't even have the documents. Now I wanted to give everybody the framework that now you got the documents.
So why this is important is one of the reasons that I've been yelling this across the world, day in and day out, whether it's here or on my podcast or anywhere that I could, is because what happened to me, I don't ever want to see happen to you. And I know we have a bunch of assholes, that watch us each and every week, and you make these nasty comments about, well, you worked for him and so on. Yeah, I did, when he was the president and CEO of a family-run real estate branding development company. Yeah. And yes, I thought he was going to be a totally different type of president. But my biggest concern, after obviously everything went south, was that it should not ever happen to you. And it should never happen to anybody else. And when we start to see people like Matt Gaetz being offered positions of attorney general, I promise you, this would be the norm. Now, I don't know anything about Pam Bondi, in terms of what she would or would not do. I did support her because Trump directed us all to years ago, but I don't know whether she would do it, whether she's that much of an acolyte. But here's what happened. One out of several hundred documents that I just saw, and it was the second one. So that's why I was able to pull up, because I've been doing other things like working on my third book. But this is from Sonia Thompson, who is Assistant General Counsel to the Bureau of Prisons, to Hugh Horowitz, who is the Eastern Division representative for the Bureau of Prisons, to a guy named Emery Nelson, who is he's like the PR guy for the Bureau of Prisons. And you know what they have in their memo, the subject? Do you have concerns? And what did the concerns talk about? The concerns talked about a Reuters journalist asked them a series of questions. You said earlier that Cohen didn't agree to electronic monitoring. At what point did this occur? Our understanding is that he was at the courthouse to review the terms of the agreement, and he never even got a chance to object. Also, the BOP policy of pre-approved for media interviews is not what BOP was asking Cohen to sign. He was asked to sign a document that says he would have no engagement with the media, which is different from saying he needs approval before engaging with the media. Finally, the wording of the terms presented to Cohen explicitly says there is to be, in quotes, no engagement of any kind, end quotes, including through books. The plain reading of this means he cannot release a book as a means of communicating. There is no need to reach a legal conclusion here. Are you suggesting that this requires him to get prior approval from BOP before publishing? Because that is clearly not what the terms say. Then it's signed by the individual from Reuters. P.S. I have filed a FOIA. And to those that don't know what FOIA is, it's a Freedom of Information Act. as you suggested, but I would urge the BOP to consider releasing the information outside of FOIA, or at the very least provide us with a number of inmates who are asked to sign similar to Cohen's terms, which will go beyond the usual BOP policies of talking to the media. But then the kicker is the very last part, the very last paragraph here. It's from the BOP to this Reuters reporter. Hello, so-and-so. And I think I know who the person is. I'm waiting to hear back from them. Your characterization of what is occurring, prior restraint, is a legal conclusion, while the applicable BOP policy, Program Statement 5350.27, to which you are citing, authorizes inmates to write and publish manuscripts. It does not speak to the issue which you are raising, which is promotion of said manuscript via the media. We decline to comment further as to this aspect of your line of inquiry. They didn't want any more of this, which is why they asked at the very beginning, should we be concerned? They lied. They lied to the court. They lied during the habeas petition by my lawyer, Danya Perry, when they were having me returned from the unconstitutional remand. They lied in my civil action against the Bureau of Prisons, Department of Justice, United States of America, and Bill Barr. Right? They lied on the Second Circuit Appellate Court, and they lied on the writ of habeas, the writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court. The government lied to the courts in order to protect their unconstitutional behavior. And again, my big concern, it already happened to me. I did my 51 days of solitary. I did my entire 6-year term. I'm done. I want to make sure that not this upcoming administration, but any upcoming administration never, ever does it to anyone ever again. It is fucking wrong. It's unconstitutional and it's un-American. And it should never, ever, ever have happened to me. And I want to make sure, as long as I'm still breathing, I want to make sure this never happens to anyone ever again. And you know the funny thing? I don't even blame Trump for this. I blame Bill Barr, because there's no way in the world that people like you, Horowitz, or what's the names here? You got, who else is there? Sonia Thompson or Emery Nelson. They weren't speaking to Trump, but I guarantee you their people were speaking to Bill Barr. And as the Attorney General, he should have known better. He should have done better. And he should have said, this is unconstitutional and we cannot and should not do it. And for that reason, Bill Barr, you get the 2 fucking fingers salute, you bloviated piece of shit.
Who do you think Bill Barr was talking to, though?
You know, it's a great question. I'm not 100% certain that he was actually speaking to Trump. He could have been speaking to Kushner. He could have been speaking to Bannon. I don't know. But what I do know is Bill Barr, for certain, I could say 100% for certain, was behind all of this. Who put it into his ear? If I had 2 questions that I would be permitted to ask Trump face to face, the first question I would want to know is why. And second, did you know about this? That's the 2 questions I would like to know. This is 100% it is unconstitutional. It's un-American. And my biggest fear is that what they did to me, expect to start seeing more and more and more as this new administration, depending upon who becomes Attorney General, depending upon who ends up in positions of power. That's my biggest fear.
Well, look, I think Trump knew. I think Trump, my own opinion, it's my opinion. I think that he either, the people who you mentioned too, Bannon or Kushner, I mean, they're talking to Trump. So to me, it all ends with, or goes up the ladder to Trump. But I hear your perspective. But let me reflect on this as well, though. The doctrine that basically gave the Bureau of Prisons and the Department of Justice immunity that the Supreme Court held, or the Court of Appeals held, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals held, is a doctrine, though, that's very alarming, especially when it comes to not just you, but mass deportations, because it's another form of immunity. And what the immunity basically says is that if Congress doesn't pass a specific law that permits you to file lawsuits against, say, the FBI or ICE or whoever, and those don't exist. There's nothing on the books like a wrongful death action against ICE, for example. Then unless Congress creates this doctrine, there's nothing. This is how it's been interpreted now, which I think is incorrect, but this is how the right-wing Supreme Court says it. There's nothing in the Constitution that creates an inferred or implied cause of action to give you the right to sue or to vindicate your rights. No one said that Cohen lost on the merits. Quite the contrary. The federal judge said on the merits, Cohen is right. He was targeted as a political prisoner. However, Congress didn't pass a law that in this specific situation allowed, this is what they argued, allowed Cohen to invoke his constitutional rights to bring a civil case. And Cohen said, what are you talking about? Here are all of the amendments that give me that right. It says it. And they said, sorry, Congress needs to pass a law. So if you think about mass deportations, what happens if ICE breaks in and kills somebody? And then that family files a lawsuit. ICE is going to be citing the same doctrine that got Cohen's case dismissed. And I think it's important that we analyze it in that context.
Ben, some of those that follow us are like, I hate that Cohen is constantly ranting about what Trump and, the Republicans did to him. I don't give a shit, and so on. Let me say this, why it's an ignorant statement to make, why you should care. And I constantly say it. One, because it happened to me, so I have personal knowledge that you don't. But my sole purpose, I could sit back and say nothing. What happens when it happens to you or someone who you care about or somebody else? And what happens if that gets repeated again and again and again, like what happened during the times of Stalin? That all I have to do is turn around and say, John Doe said this. Next thing you know, you have people showing up to your house, taking you away and violating your First Amendment constitutional rights. I went through hell. I can tell you, I know what hell looks like. I didn't go through it once. I went through it twice. And what I'm trying to do is ensure that nobody else ever has to experience what I did. And if that doesn't make sense to you, then you may be actually so misguided. You shouldn't be a part of this brigade of community. And I hate asking somebody to sort of stay away, because our goal is to create millions so that if and when shit goes bad, that we have a community so big that we cannot be ignored. It's why I take pride when I tell people that the Midas Network has more than 3.3 million subscribers, more than CNN and MSNBC, more. And that's why I'm so proud to be associated with this network. I want to make sure that the damage that they did to me and my family, that they never do it again to anybody. And I hope that explains to you the reason why I repeat it over and over and over, because sometimes you have to yell from the mountaintop again and again and again in order for everybody to hear it.
Let me close with this for people who are critical of you or your positions, or people who would maybe sympathetic with Midas Touch, but are critical of you. It would have been very easy for you in that 2017 period to continue to cover up the wrongdoing by Don.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done nothing. You could have cut a deal with him to get pardoned by him. You likely would have been pardoned.
Mm-hmm.
You probably would have kept your law license and kept everything. You could have grifted and made tens of millions of dollars off of RNC donors and Trump donors and all the people who get the email, created your kind of Cohen law firm. Maybe you would have been prosecuted, but once you were pardoned, when he pardoned you, you could have made millions of dollars. You would not have
I'd probably be a nominee for a position right now.
You may be a Supreme Court. I mean, you may be a Supreme Court justice, attorney general. That was a path, honestly, that you could have took. You're at a time when it was most difficult to stand up against him, right in that time period. Your moral compass, the values that you were, born with, the fact that you're a descendant of people who were Holocaust survivors, everything that led you to that moment told you in your core, I can't go along with what Trump's, I can't do it. And I know that that's going to have massive ramifications for me, but I can't go on and just say and do nothing. And so you spoke out, and you face solitary confinement, imprisonment, no pardon, and you testified over and over. You get attacked in the media from Fox, you get attacked in the media from MSNBC, you get attacked in the media from CNN, so I just, one of the things with my representation, for example, of Colin Kaepernick, I've always been attracted to or fascinated with and wanted to help people who during the most difficult moments stood up and resisted and told the truth and did the really hard thing. That aspect of it is what drew me to you back then. And I just always want to remind people of that, because I think with the passing of time, maybe sometimes people forget all of that. So I'll leave people with that. I believe it's an honor to host this show with you, Michael Cohen. And, and I think that there's, these are not easy times, but I am very confident. I'm very hopeful, actually, that in these uneasy times that we're going to come out stronger, but we got to be united. We got to work together. We can't cannibalize each other, and we got to focus on building. And we've always tried to be a voice of positivity and community building here, and not bringing people down. So hit subscribe here. Join us.
But I see a lot of people a lot of people are saying, "Oh, pardon." Joe Biden should pardon Michael Cohen. If you go to my Twitter X account at Michael Cohen 212, pinned right to the top is a way you can actually send a letter to the White House, to Joe Biden, regarding that. So if you want to, about 20,000 people have done it so far. The more, the merrier. It takes a couple of minutes at most, but certainly it would be very much appreciated because, we have 6 days left.
Everybody, thank you so much.
The brothers, 212.
The show I do with my brothers will be on this evening at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Join us then. Also, I think we still have the poll up right now. Maybe we'll run a poll for you, Cohen, about pardoning you. The poll we had was for Hunter Biden. Do we think that Hunter Biden should be pardoned? It's on the community page, so you can check that out. Maybe we'll drop it in the chat as well. But you go to our community page and just fill out that poll, because we really want to get a sense of it. I think right now on the back end, it shows that like 96% of Midas Touch Network viewers agree with the pardon, which is so interesting when you compare to the way corporate media has been portraying it versus, I think, what kind of rank and file core base voters actually feel about it. Everybody, we love you. We're grateful for you. Subscribe to the Mea Culpa Blue podcast. Subscribe to at the Michael
Please
Cohen Show
now.
YouTube channel. Do all of that now. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Hang in there. We'll be there by your side every step of the way. We love you. We're grateful for you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.